Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another webinar by Projectum. Today we're going to talk about the effective project management using Microsoft Teams. My name is Erik Van Hurck, and I will be guiding you through the agenda and the whole session. Now keep in mind, this is a pre-recorded session. That means that I won't be doing this live, but any questions that come into the chat using the big marker chat functionality will be redirected to me, and I will get back to you as soon as I see the questions coming in. So what do we have on the agenda today? First, I'm going to talk about the company and a little bit about myself, and then we're going to dive into the features. We have 4 features that will definitely help you out as a project manager. Obviously, meetings. Having meetings with your team is very important, and Microsoft Teams has a couple of very nifty little tricks up its sleeve to help you out with having the most effective team meeting that you can imagine. There are tabs and there are bots. Both are very useful, and the tabs and the bots can be additions to each team that you create. And we're going to dive into a couple of these tabs, and we're going to talk about the bot technology and how that will leverage helping you in your day-to-day work. Last feature that I really like and have been experimenting with lately is Flow. Microsoft Flow, part of the Power Platform, is another tool by Microsoft. And that Flow is very useful for combining work or automating work. It's also a tool that leverages workflows. Well, we'll get back to that at the end. Just before we're going to wrap up. Finally, we're doing a wrap up, giving you some email addresses for you to get in touch with us after this session. So let's dive in. Projectum is a company that established in 2004, and we have offices in Denmark and the Netherlands, but we're basically serving Europe and also have been making side glances to the rest of the world. We also have customers for our apps, for instance, in Australia, and we did an implementation of Project Online in China. So we have a large number of customers, a lot of passionate consultants, and we have been around for a long while. Key thing to take away here is that we have user adoption as one of our main goals. We would like to have people working with the tools that we generate and having a good feeling about working with them. We recently launched a new slogan, modernizing how people work, and Microsoft Teams is one of the ways that we do this. Giving people good vibes in their all organizational levels, working with portfolio, project, and work. Then a little bit about myself. My name is Erik Van Hurck, and it's my goal to help current and future users of project and portfolio management software to achieve the most while making their experiences with the tools as enjoyable as possible. So on to team meetings, or meetings within Microsoft Teams. Using Teams for your meetings has a couple of advantages, and we'll dive into a live demo in a short while, but mainly Teams gives you the option to have documentation, notes, team, everything in one place. Then there's a technology that we added, Microsoft added after the BBC Dad incident. I don't know if you remember that, but that was a BBC representative that had his camera on, and his kids came in, and it was a bit of an awkward situation. So Microsoft designed image blur, and we'll see it at demo live, and I'm in a not so comfortable location at this moment, so that is an ideal situation to see the image blur. Then there's an option to meet right now, or schedule a meeting, or do other things within that meeting. So let's have a demo. what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Microsoft Teams. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this, there is a couple of items here, and this is the application. So it's the client desktop application. You can also open everything that you see here in the browser and have your chat through the browser as well, or see the latest activities. So there's a couple of teams here, and each team is combined with a Office 365 group, which is very useful because that gives you security right out of the box, as well as combinations or links with different Microsoft applications. So let's have a look at the webinar. When I created it, it only had the conversations, files, and wiki. And we're going to look in more detail at the tabs in the next section. But from this conversations tab, I have the option right down here below that says Meet Now. Well, this is ideal. Right from the conversation, if you think that there is a conversation going on that you would like to have a meeting about, you can say, okay, well, guys, let's do a meeting about this subject. Well, what happens then is I immediately open up a preview of my camera, and I can switch cameras, and I can even schedule a meeting if I didn't want to meet right now, but I do want to meet. I can add a subject if I want, subject, and I click on Meet Now. It opens up a full screen, and it opens up in my camera. If there are other people joining that meeting and they have their cameras on as well, it will start a mosaic. So as I mentioned, I don't have a very nice environment at the moment to work in. Well, it is what it is, right? But I don't want my meeting participants to see how I'm sitting. I want them to focus on me. So when I click on the three ellipses, I will see the blur my background option. And there you go. Now everything except my face, and when I move my hands, I also see my hands because Microsoft thinks this is important. Everything else is blurred. And from the background, nothing is seen. Well, it is seen. I did move that thing here, but you are not focused on it. It is purely my face that you're focused on right now, which is a nice little addition. Now, from this settings page, let's look at some of the other features that we have here. We have the audio devices, speaker and microphone devices. We also have the option to change or switch cameras. If we have multiple cameras switched on, I can also go into the rear camera and it will retain that image blur, which is very nice because it's only cables. Heading back to the front camera, it retains that image blur, which is very nice. Now, if you are doing a meeting within Microsoft Teams and you've shared a PowerPoint presentation with the team, it's very useful to have the private viewing on or off. If you want to have the team follow the presentation in the time frame that you're currently doing it yourself, then you might want to switch this off, because if you have that turned on and you have a couple of people that are quicker by reading and also want to skip ahead so that they are prepared to what you're going to say, then this is an option to have the private viewing on. If you have that on, people will be able to have their own look and feel through the presentation that you're currently sharing. So I really like that option here. From this section, you can invite people. You can invite people from your team, but you can also invite people outside of the team. So let's have a look. So Gerwin, my manager, he is currently offline because I don't see him here with his presence. and then there are other people as well. There's a chat functionality, obviously, and then there is meeting notes. Go ahead and start taking notes. If you start taking notes, this is what's happening. So right from this screen, you'll see notes, notes from the webinar, and I can start capturing meeting minutes, and I can start adding a section here and blah blah blah. And I can close this off. So this note, where is it created? It is created, but it also has the option to show notes in full screen, which is nice because it now opens up a new tab, Meeting Notes, which is a specific tab created for a specific meeting, such as the notes that I just created today. You can return to your presentation, and I can turn off the camera, and it will show you the icon that you have set for yourself or your organization has set for you using the Active Directory. Currently you're the only one, and I can turn off and on the microphone, and I can start sharing screen. I can share desktops, I can share windows, and I can share presentations. And again, if I share the presentation with the team during the meeting, they will have the option to skip ahead within that presentation. And then there is a third-party whiteboard option here as well. So let's have a look at that. If I can add it to the team, this is now a new tab within the Microsoft Teams environment that we created. So let's do that right now. Pin content and services at the top of the channel. About privacy. Here you can read a bit more about the InVision tab that is created. And let's click on install. Draw, plan, and collaborate in an infinite whiteboard. Well, that sounds great. So now I need to sign up. I will not do that right now. But if you have your own InVision account, you'll be able to use this, sign in on it, and post it on the channel that you actually created this tab for within the teams. So I'm clicking on back. It might be more useful or more obvious to have a OneNote drive here, or a OneNote file here that you could use for your note-taking, scribbling and drawing, but that's just me. So if I hang up, I will return to the Conversations tab, and Teams will ask you how did the call how did the call go? Did it go okay? Did you think there were improvements needed? For instance, if I click on no, then what could have been better? We won't share your answers. Well, this is privacy related, right? So that's good that that's there. But sending that feedback will go into Microsoft's databases, and they will have an anonymous situation where they would see, okay, well, calling should improve, or video should improve, or presenting should improve. So if I click on cancel, it will just go away, and it will have that note here. Now, one thing that we didn't touch on within the meeting, and I'm going to go back to the meeting in a moment, is recording. And also, the notes that were taken can obviously be managed through show notes. And once that's loaded, it will show up here, and you'll have a nice little note-taking screen here, and you can add more notes here as well. I'm not too keen on this note-taking application, because I do think that OneNote is a more powerful tool to actually take notes in, but we'll get back to that later when we're adding a couple of tabs. So heading back to the conversations, we have an option to add a recording. So let's jump into a meeting again, or I can schedule a meeting. And if I schedule a meeting, I can actually invite people. So for instance, invite people. Why can't I find people? Because they are not in the team. Here you do need to find people within the team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a recording meeting, and I will start the recording, and it will happen, well, it will happen now. And obviously we would like to have an agenda, item 1, item 2, and we can schedule the meeting. Now remember, this is a Teams online meeting. Everyone can join online, so you do not have to have the desktop application here. You could also join in using the mobile phone, for instance, or the mobile app, for instance, as well as having the browser version. So let's look at the recording, record meeting. If I click on this, it will open up the actual meeting, and I can join it. And there's also an option to look at your different meetings from the side pane, where it has the option here to join. I can look at this section here with additional information. This actually comes from Microsoft Outlook and is linked to that Microsoft Outlook. So if I can go to the meetings, I can select the meeting, I can join the Teams meeting right from here, or I can chat with the participants, and that will open up a discussion right here in the Conversations tab again. So recording meeting, let's join that meeting. And when I'm joining a meeting, I have the options to turn on or off the camera, and I can image blur when I have my camera turned on. So I'll do that right away. And I can choose to mute when I start with the conversation. And it also detected the correct audio equipment. So I'm going to click on join now. It opens up the big screen again. There's nothing shared, so it immediately picks up, do I want to share screens from the participants, and are there people that aren't sharing their camera? They will show up either as a image file of the person or with nothing at all. So let's go ahead, and here is the option, start recording. Obviously you need to be a owner of that meeting to be able to record, or you need to have the permissions to ask for a recording. So start recording, and that shows up right here. You're recording. Let everyone know that you're doing it, because yeah, privacy statement needs to be there. So let's click on dismiss here, and we can continue the meeting as we would do normally. Now let's click on close. I'm clicking on close, and it says leaving. And right now the meeting has ended, and the recording is being created, and it's going to save that to Microsoft Stream. Microsoft Stream is another Microsoft application. And Microsoft Stream has a couple of nifty AI features in there as well as automatic captions and knowing who the person is that is talking, as long as that's in your Active Directory. Now getting that recording might take a while, so don't wait for it, but when it's done, there will be a link similar to this one here. So that's it for team meetings. There's documentation, notes, and teams. It's all in one place. There's sharing that is advanced using the sharing of a PowerPoint presentation, for instance, where you have the option to give people free rein in which slide they are currently looking into. Image blur is one of the things that I really like, and meet right away or schedule a meeting, and having everything in that one place in Microsoft Teams. Keep in mind, Microsoft Teams will replace Skype in the future. So get yourself familiarized if you're currently a heavy user of Skype. And during the time that I was talking, here we see the recording changed. There's a play video option, and there is. So here it says this recording was saved to Microsoft Stream, but it wasn't linked to a Stream channel. Now, what does it mean that it was saved to Microsoft Stream? That means that it is recorded and actually visible from the Microsoft Stream service, but there is a catch here that I will show you by visiting the Microsoft Stream channel itself, or Stream channel, Stream service itself. Once it's loaded, we'll see a limited here. That limited means that there is a limited set of people that can view this recording. And that limitation is linked to the Office 365 group that we created when we created our teams. So the service that is storing the video is outside of Teams, but it is still linked to the security within Teams. So that's a good thing to know. And that's it about team meetings. Let's head back to our presentation and see what it is about tabs. Second topic is about using tabs, and there is a lot of different tabs available, and this list is growing. Best part about this, I believe, is that it is broader than the Microsoft ecosystem itself. There is a lot of tabs created by third-party tools such as the Trello organization or Atlassian with its Jira components. But there's also native Microsoft tools such as the Power Apps or Power BI and things like that. Let's dive into our team. Let's dive into our webinar team again and see how we can add more tabs here. So right from the start, where we have general. General is one of the channels that we have. Each channel can have their own tabs, and we'll head back to channels in a moment, where we're diving into flow. But each of these sections is actually one of the apps, or one of the tabs that we created. Each one of these is a tab. So we have the Files tab, where we can create new folders or new files, or we can upload files straight from either the desktop application or OneDrive, for instance. We can get links from the different items to share, and we can open it up in SharePoint. Because it is linked to an Office 365 group, there is obviously a SharePoint page behind it. So this meeting notes is another tab which showed up at the moment that we added that to our meeting, but it wasn't there before. So there's a wiki page which is similar to the meeting notes, which has the same functionality. But again, I am a huge fan of OneNote, and we'll get to that in one of the tabs. So there is also a tab here, which is Project Online. And the Project Online tab gives you a window to your own Project Online environment. Well, this is actually a little trick that we did. This link, this screen that we're seeing now, is actually just a website. So this is a tab that is a website, and within the tab we generated the first URL that we would land on. Now keep in mind, Teams has its own permissions, and also the websites that you visit have their own permissions. Or if you would add a Power App, it would have its own permissions. So if you are a team member and you're logging into Microsoft Teams and going to the Project Online tab, you would see a different thing from me, where I am the admin of this environment, so it would make sense that I would see more here. So it retains that security level that you would like to see. There's another tab here, and it's the Power BI tab, and this is the native tab within Microsoft Teams. This is not a website link. This is just Microsoft Power BI from within Teams. Nice part about this, if you have Microsoft Teams on your mobile device and you would click on this link, or you would click on this tab, it would actually open up that it would actually open up the Power BI within the native app that is available for your mobile device. So right from this screen, we see Power BI, and we can interact with it just like we would do with a normal Power BI instance, where we could change the project type, and we can change the owner, or we can focus on deadline 1, for instance. So this is very nifty, where we can straight away interact with our Power BI. And obviously we could navigate to the website itself, or we could do a full screen mode as well, which is not really full screen, to be honest. These are 2 examples, but as I said before, there is a lot of tabs available. And from the bottom here below, there's even more tabs. And what we get here is a full screen of a lot of these apps or tabs. Who knows what the official term is, right? And here is one, OneNote. Let's add that. OneNote are easy to collaborate on digital content and share it with your. So let's add a OneNote to this environment, where first of all I would say, okay, well, in which team do I add it? And I click on available, and then I get asked, in which channel do you want to add that in the OneNote? So let's click on OneNote, and I will click on the tab. Yeah, tab is the only option here, so let's click on setup. And from this side, you get the option to add a OneNote that you already have, or create a complete new one. And I would say create a new one that is specifically for this webinar team that we have. So there is no mix and match between the different situations in your work life. So post this to the channel is an option that you get with most of the tabs that you add. One of the things that I don't like typically is seeing all the apps being added all the time, but for now I'll leave it up here and you will be able to see what happens. Save, and here it is now created. And here it is now created, and what you see here is that it is OneNote online, and you have the option to add stuff. So this is a section name, and it really basically gives you the option to add anything you like. You can choose files to add, such as this file here. I click on insert, and if it's an image, sometimes it shows the image itself, but sometimes it's just the file, like so, like in this instance. And you can start typing and setting up meeting items that you would like to have. For instance, if we were in the meeting still and we needed to have things ticked off, we go into home, tags, and we can set this as a to-do item, and we can say, well, this item was done and this item is done as well. And OneNote also has the option to combine that with Microsoft Outlook, where a person will get a task within Outlook to do. So this is the reason why I really like OneNote instead of the standard out-of-the-box meeting notes and wiki. It's way more powerful, in my opinion. So, but not only Microsoft tools are available here. There's also a whole wide range of different applications that are available here as well. You can add your Evernote if Evernote is your go-to note-taking device, for instance. And there are a lot of things that you can do and add, and each one of these, if there is an account needed, you will need to log in to that account first before you can start using that service. So that's it about taking the power of tabs and adding that to the whole list. Now remember where I said, okay, well, I don't like it when there are mentions of tabs being added. This is one of those where it's very, well, it's not saying that much. There is an option to click on it and you will be redirected to that tab, but that's about it. People will see this happening when there's new tabs opening up, or there can be a real conversation going on where it says, hey guys, look at this new some tab I created. So that's it. That's about it for tabs. Let's talk about adding bots. Bots are very interesting, and they leverage a lot of power, which is sometimes artificial intelligence, sometimes just good coding. And the bots that we are creating for Microsoft Teams at the moment are most of the time chatbots, where you would interact with a chatbot just like you would do with a normal person. Let's have an example with Polly. Polly is one of the bots that I like to use to do polling services. So let's add Polly. Doing that is basically done through the same plus sign, because Polly is here. But for clarification purposes, let's click on more apps and let's have a look at the bots section here. Bots let you search for and share information from different apps. So here we have the Polly app, and we're going to add that to the team webinar, and it gives you the option as a team to chat with the bot and ask questions and find information, and there will be content and services at the top of the channel. So if you do multiple polls with Polly, you would see the general overview of those polls within that tab. So let's click on install. And just like the previous tab, we would like to know in which location we're going to gather that, and that's going to be in the general channel. And we're going to set up the bot. And if you don't want to go to the more apps, there's also a direct link to Polly here, which takes a lot of that configuration and setting up away from you, because you are already in the general tab or the general team. You are already in the general channel, and it doesn't need to know that anymore because you're already there. So other than that, Polly has been added to the team, and it has a nice open free chat with you straight away, where it gives you the option to have questions. So let's have a first look. It already created an @poly chat to start off with. Let's have a question. Are you enjoying this webinar so far? Yes. No. Maybe. If I ask this, Polly will return with a nice poll. And I can have Polly gather the answers for that question. So for instance, here I would have that poll, and I can say, okay, well, are you enjoying the webinar so far? Well, maybe you are. And I can click on submit vote. And Polly will update the information. And there are advanced settings where you can have people not having their name here and things like that. But other than that, this is a really nice, nifty little bot. Now, more on the project manager side, there is also a bot that you can chat with. And that bot is, for instance, a PM bot. This is an example of one that Projectum created. So let's click on help. And this bot will have a couple of options to chat with you. And you can do that straight away from a chat session, such as this one, outside of any team. Or if you have that bot being part of one of the teams, you can straight away talk with that bot within that team by using the @suprema to get their attention. So for instance, a bot could be useful to create a new resource, create a new project, update a KPI status. And again, this is just a chat with a normal person. And that person is a machine in this instance, but that is about the difference. That's about it for the difference. So you can use the mobile devices or a tablet or a laptop or any device that's connected with Microsoft Teams to facilitate this information. So that's it for bots. Bots are coming and they are getting more advanced. And these two are just a couple of examples of how we would use bots in our day-to-day life. So the final section that I have for you is let flow take over. And there should be an O capitalized, but let flow take over. What is flow? It creates classical workflows. It automates. It can include business logic such as approvals or documentation or collaboration, if then that scenarios. And it's highly integrated with, again, a lot of applications outside and inside the Microsoft ecosystem. For instance, it has the option to notice if someone tweets something about your company, and if that person has more than 100 followers, it would add that person as a lead to Dynamics CRM. And it would add that person to your MailChimp account. Obviously, that needs to be approved, and this is just an example of the many different applications that can be linked within a flow. And there are also a lot of templates there already. And because this is a Microsoft tool, and it's a new Microsoft tool, it loves connectivity. One of the things that I want to show you is a flow where if I create a new project in Project Online, it would automatically create a new channel within Microsoft Teams and pre-populate that with tabs or bots. So let's have that demo right now. I'll navigate back to my Teams. And I will open up Microsoft Flow and head on over to my flows. And this is a flow created by a colleague of mine, and this team flow creates a channel when we have this team flow creates a channel including tabs whenever a project is created. So I'll click on edit, and I won't dive into the details because that is too much for this webinar at the moment. But when a project is created, it will create a channel, adding a tab about Power Apps and adding a projects tab as well. Now see the preview icons here. That means that Microsoft is testing the functionality and it's not generally available. But these actions are in here and you can create new channels. Now this flow works on a different team than the webinar team. So let's head over to the team NPW and let's see what happens when we create a new project. From Microsoft Teams, I'll navigate to the NPW and I'll head on over to the Generals tab here. And from the Generals tab, I have the option to create a new Marvel hero. Now, Nicholas is a very big fan of Marvel, so obviously we're going to have the whole Marvel universe in here at some point in time. But it is actually his way of saying, okay, let's create a new project. When I click on this, it actually grabs the information from Microsoft Project Online and services that in a web browser, just like the example before. So I can click on create a new Marvel hero and I'll click on next. And I can choose to create a new Marvel hero. So let's have a look at who we already created. Black Panther, Ant-Man, funny, I don't know that one. But obviously I am also a fan of Spider-Man. And this is going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to be the owner. And I'll click on finish. Now in the backend, Microsoft Project Online is creating that new project, but the moment project is published, that triggers an action within Flow. Let's give project a little bit time to actually create that project, and let's have a look at our different tab, which is called Project Home. Now already here I see Spider-Man, and it is a project, and it was activated, it was created a minute ago. So I can click on this and it will open up a new browser with the project actively available for me to add and change and do all kinds of stuff with it. So let's head back over to our teams, and it switched from 4 to 5 channels, and here we have our new Spider-Man channel. Right from the start, it created 2 tabs. It actually should create 2 more tabs, and there we go. It created it automatically. Here is project and here is Power App. And what happens when you click on project? It adds a tab to that project detail page that we saw just a moment ago. And there is also a Power App option here. Now, remember where I said that there's a restriction about permissions? I am not permitted to see that Power App that Nicholas created. So that's too bad for me, and maybe he will do a follow-up session about talking about this Power App, but for me, this is not visible. With that, I would like to thank you for joining this webinar session. I hope to see you back again for the next session, and I'll hopefully do a live webinar that time. For now, please contact me if you have any questions that I haven't answered in the chat because I'm not there. But keep in mind, I will get back to each question at a later point in time, and that will be communicated with you. With that, again, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time.